Hey, we just need a second microphone, so it takes a little bit, but we can start with the video. So, yeah. Does it work?
Yeah. Test.
We need sound. Normally the video is with sound. It's like German electric beats.
Yeah, thanks.
Klick mal.
Huh? No, ist es nicht. Ah. Okay, another try.
The world is as you are. Dive within.
Cool. Hi. Hallo Labin. Yeah, so we're from Wild. I'm Thomas.
And I'm also Thomas.
And yeah, really nice to be here. Okay. Yeah, so I think we're going to talk about what we're not going to talk about today. So we're not going to talk about a classic portfolio presentation. We're also not going to talk about how to use Sketch or any other app. Everybody knows that. And also not how sexy we look in Speedos, but maybe you can meet us at the beach later.
You can imagine that.
And see for yourself. Now we're going to talk a little bit about the past and the future, and just related to like how we started, because we started as freelancers 6 years ago, just working together and building up an agency, and also about what we learned when we built this agency and all the mistakes we made and the good choices we made sometimes. And also how we now start to look into the future, because yeah, I think the way we see the agency world has been changing every year or so. So we constantly try to adapt what we do and how we do it, and I think this is just going to be what we talk about today. And yeah, let's start with how we found each other. So yeah, there was a time when there was no digital design community in Austria. That's why I think it's so awesome that you have this conference here, because we started kind of in a similar way. So at that time, there was just a bunch of guys. This is Matthias, our third co-founder is not here today. This is Tobias, another friend who used to live in Austria back then. And this is us after we started the first Dribble meetup in Vienna. And kind of got to know each other and got really drunk afterwards, which is always a good start of a great foundation for the future. Yeah, and then after we met, we decided, okay, so you can kind of code, you can design. Let's sit in a basement together and make some websites. And after a while, it worked out so well that we actually founded Wild, and this was the beginning of a quite interesting journey.
Yeah, and of course a lot of things happened in the last 6 years. Of course we grew a little bit, but we also did a couple of amazing projects, and here's just a very short overview of what things we did and yeah, where this headed. So we kind of at the beginning we accidentally made a social experiment, and that was with our website. It was called Send a Message .it. And it was basically a site where you can send different gestures to friends and colleagues and to the family, and you get a random one. But of course, you can also create your own gesture and send it to, in this case, it's to you guys. So peace, or no, let's send a fuck you. And then I just copy the link, and you get the link, put it in or you open the link, and you scroll down, don't know what happens, and then it tells you, just fuck you. So there was just a little side project we did back then, and we found out actually over 1 million users use this site and send around gestures, and actually 85% of them send around fuck yous. So there was the social study behind that. And that's the URL if you want to keep on going and send out messages and gestures.
Yeah.
And then, of course, we dived into technology and wanted to make virtual reality look awesome. And a couple of years ago, Google Creative Lab in New York asked us, because they had this new technology which was called Web VR, that's virtual reality for the web. So you only need the browser and the device. And they asked us to create an experiment for them to showcase what's possible with this technology. And yeah, that was the testing week in Sweden, because they came from the US to Sweden, brought all their new devices, and we tested it in Sweden. And we spent the whole day in the whole week in virtual reality. And the game looked kind of like this. So you played ping pong, but you played it with your head so that it looks more stupid. And you can play against an opponent, or if you don't have any friends, then you can also play alone. And you can also turn around, and there's like the disco mode, and everything is blinking and in rainbow mode. And then we also became friends with a beekeeper, and that's David, a good friend of us now. And we helped him with his branding and his website and all of that. It was a long time ago. And we also visited him a couple of times and wanted to understand the bees and how honey works and how they produce honey. And that's the outcome. Yeah. So it's very soft. You see it on the left side. It's very, very soft. And yeah. But it's okay. It's okay again.
Yeah, and also one of our big achievements was to work on campaigns that feature golden toilets. So we worked actually on a campaign this summer, which started as a microsite and became a larger campaign for the Super Bowl that we did with an American agency called Jonix Hannes. And it basically features the rapper 2 Chainz rapping about all the expensive shit he owns. Sound, please, if you have it.
Time and space don't apply to me. My garage, abracadabra. Ice whip 2 chicks that look like Cleopatra. Whip too refined for the horsepower. Gotta running off a seafood tower. Know that I'm here for a reason. Car so.
Yeah, nice ice car. So yeah, and this was shown on Times Square, and we basically built a little thing for Expensify where you could scan all the things in this music video and expense them and win them, which was also a fun thing to do. But yeah, every now and then, of course, we ask us, why did we start Wild in the first place? So as you see, we did a lot of fun projects over the years, a lot of microsites, but of course, the landscape is always changing and the way you work is changing. And then sometimes, yeah, you also try and want to do something more meaningful, in terms of creating value with what you create, and then basically after a short brainstorming, we came up with the things that we think are some of the main reasons why we started this whole thing. And the one thing is definitely design and beauty. So we wanted to make things that look awesome and that we like and that we like working with. And for me as a developer originally, definitely we want more fun to code something that looks really awesome or has a really awesome idea to it. Which brings me to the creative use of technology. So playing around with VR, creating stupid ping pong games, and just having fun with technology in combination with design as well. And then overall just enjoy what we do. So every year we actually do a little meetup with the team, and then we just ask them, what project was fun this year and which project kind of sucked, and then the ones that suck, we try to not do them anymore. So also really, really important like measurement that we kind of came up with over the years. Yeah, and then we thought about like how do we move forward from here? Like what's actually happening in the world? How are other like people seeing design? Design becoming more important in every company basically. So if you look at digital transformation, like everybody's moving into that space. So I think it's just a much broader effect that you see now compared to like maybe 10 years ago when it was just a bunch of nerds doing crazy microsites. Now you have it in banking and every other industry basically. So how does that affect our work, and how can we maybe move into those spaces as well? And so I'm going to move over to Thomas a little bit for that.
And for that, we need to jump back in time and make a very, very short history of graphic design. Because, of course, the canvas for graphic design completely changed over the last 32,000 years. And especially since the internet is born in the 28 years, especially for us. And let's summarize like the whole history of graphic design in 3 slides. People start with cave paintings, like a couple thousand years ago, and they only had one canvas. They had like the stone wall, and they painted something on it. Then it moved on to graphic modern design in the 1900s. People had posters and flyers and all of that print stuff what you can imagine, and they had to adapt everything to different canvases and formats. And then, of course, around 2000, the internet came up, and the first websites that were designed. In this case, the Space Jam site that's still online. That's an amazing site. So another canvas was added to all the canvases that already exist, and now you can imagine when we design something, it needs to fit like different poster sizes. It needs to fit like on a website. It needs to fit on Instagram, on Facebook. Every site has different formats and different materials and canvases. So it gets kind of crazy in that case. So we thought about what are the current work areas of digital designers, of designers like us. And we of course, we need to do some research. We need to do we need to design different breakpoints for our designs. We need to export assets for the developers that they are happy and don't need to do that by themselves. We need to create concepts and think about user experience and format adaptations, creating design systems, and of course, design directions. But you see, that's like a big mix of creating and thinking and be creative. And on the other hand, it's just like work off different tasks and work off the different canvases and formats. So, of course, the future should look like that we focus more on the creative work, and that also means we need to work less. So for that, we kind of need to reduce the clutter of our daily work life as designers. And that sounds very Marie Kondo, but that's true. And we need to jump from this to that, because of course everything that's not crossed out makes fun, and that's why we became designers, and that's why we founded Wild. And of course, research is a fun part. Creating concepts is a fun part. Creating the UX design and think about it, and creating the wireframes is a fun part. And of course, design direction is also a fun part. But why do we need to export all the assets and adapt it to all the formats and design all the different breakpoints that should be automated, of course? Because we should only do what makes us happy. And of course, a big step was done in the last years when Sketch was introduced. They finally had the guts to create an app that's better than Photoshop in creating user interface design, and they completely changed the game. So not only the canvas changed, also the tools to create design. And they changed the canvas, and I can't imagine to work in Photoshop again to create user interface designs, because it's such a waste of time, because it's so Sketch is so optimized that you can do so many things, of course. But how can we continue changing the game? And that's why everybody can do that. And of course, we started our first step, and we made two things. The first is the Wild Wireframe Kit, and the second one is the Wild Wireframe Robot. And that's like things that will help us focusing more on creativity and less on producing the things and thinking about the things that are not necessary. So that's the Wild Wireframe Kit. Also has a cat in there. And of course, that's a very simple wireframe kit. I guess everybody knows what a wireframe kit is. It's just like a collection of different components and elements you can put together and create wireframes with it. Because, of course, in this phase of the design, you only need to think about how it works and what's in there, and not how it looks like, because that's not important in this phase of a design for a project. So that's why we created the wireframe kit for ourselves at first, and then we just open sourced it, and everybody can download it. And in the end, of course, you can make just wireframes and don't think about which color it has and how it looks like. And of course, it's 100% for free, and you can download it on wireframekit.wild.as. And then I give it back to Rag.
Yeah, and the second thing is the Wireframe Kit Robot, so also another small step, but I don't know if any of you saw the concept released by Airbnb a couple of years ago. So they started this idea of using machine learning to actually convert hand-drawn wireframes into real wireframes, and we thought, okay, that's kind of an awesome concept, but we didn't really get how to use it, or I don't know, yeah. So we saw it as an open source library, and we worked with our developers, and we just said, okay, hey, let's create a tool that's really usable for everyone. So we based it on the Wireframe Kit, and this is called the Wireframe Robot, and basically all it does, it takes your hand-drawn wireframes, and using machine learning to detect the different components, it converts them into the Wireframe Kit, and everybody can use it on Wireframe Robot.wild.as?
It's robot.wild.as,
Yeah.
and you just download like a cheat sheet that you know which components are available. You just draw everything, make a photo, you upload it, and then you get a sketch file.
Yeah.
And just imagine you're in a client meeting, and you draw together with the client. You draw a wireframe, and you don't need to redo it. It's already done because you already draw it.
Yeah. So we used TensorFlow in JavaScript for that, and basically all you need to do is drag up the JPEG or PNG and download the sketch file. Alpha ready on robot.wild.as. So that's some things that we did, but of course there's a lot of other cool stuff that's happening and that actual researchers are doing. And so we thought it would also be cool to look at what's next and what are things that can kind of get us excited moving into the future, and having more and more of these tools pop up, and how could we actually just first know them, then understand them, and see how we can actually use them in our workflow. And we kind of just split it up into two categories that we find really interesting. One is called design by description, and the Wireframe Kit is kind of one example for that. So it basically describes the wireframes by using hand-drawn sketches, and then it will just design itself automatically. But there's also this concept by NVIDIA that basically lets you describe a scene in very easy terms and automatically create imagery using machine learning as well. So this is really, really awesome. It gets us really excited. There's, of course, the new level of generative art that basically uses machine learning to just give you information like a sketch in terms of an image, and merge it with a style to create a painting and an image that's painted in any style of a painter that you like. There's this concept by Alibaba that creates banners just by basically following the same concept and blocking out where you want the text and the images to be, and it automatically generates the versions of a specific asset. And there's also this research by Microsoft that will draw anything you tell it to by just naming the properties of the element you wanted to draw. So I think this is a really exciting area. And the second area that we really enjoy is research for exploration. So there's this concept that basically is creating all kinds of different fashion styles and applying them to models and basically giving you a wide range of variety to choose from, and that it might inspire you for creating new outfits. There's this concept that used machine learning to generate models of chairs that were then actually taken by designers as inspiration and built. And there's this concept that used machine learning to generate over 2,000 templates of how to create a certain layout and give you a wide variety to choose from without having to do it by hand. There's also this kind of creepy concept that allows you to create any model look that you might want and do it in real time. Also using machine learning. So yeah, grow that beard. And this has been also moved into now another project where you can actually they generated over 100,000 faces that you can use in your designs for free because they're machine generated, they're not real people. So yeah, where does that leave us, all these crazy machine learning tools? So I think it just, as Thomas said, we should use them not to be scared, but actually think about how they can take off the workload of doing all the boring stuff, the format adaptions, like working to make a design fit across different sizes of devices, but really just help them decrease the workload and consider that ideas and creativity of how you could actually apply these technologies will still be the key in terms of creating design in the future as well. Yeah, and don't get lazy thinking about new solutions, new approaches, and new ideas how to use these tools in your workflow. And maybe build some yourself. Thanks.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, guys. I announced, is there maybe a question for Thomas and Thomas, maybe where their next show is or something like that? I announced you as a dynamic DJ duo and you have that intro, so I wasn't that far off. So likewise. Is your presentation anywhere available to download?
Yeah, we can offer it to download.
Okay.
So it's not, I don't know if it's right now, but we can definitely offer it.
The website, the address you put where the Wireframe Robot
Yeah.
exactly. Is in the presentation.
Exactly.
So maybe there are designers here who will be interested in that.
Yeah.
Is there any question for Thomas and Thomas? There's a question up front. I'll give you the mic.
Thank you. Will you be supporting Figma as well with your robot automation?
Did you say Figma?
Yeah.
Yes, that will come soon.
Because you're
Right
currently
now
just talking about Sketch.
Yeah, right now we just use Sketch, but we're in a discussion right now where we should head if we should change to Figma or if we should stay in Sketch. But of course, the Wireframe Kit, thank you. The Wireframe Kit will be available in Figma too.
Okay,
it's just in a very early stage.
Thank you.
Is there maybe another feedback, short question somewhere here? No? Oh, there is. Answer this, and then we'll go on a short coffee break.
Is this all you do, these crazy things? Do you do any like regular stuff?
He's jealous, by the way. He's jealous.
Yeah, I wasn't lying. So once a year we actually sit together and we do regular stuff. So it definitely happens. We try to avoid it, but then if we avoid it at all, we kind of go broke. So yeah, that's a reality. But I wasn't lying when I said once a year we sit together with all the employees, and there's some projects that really land very much at the bottom of the scope. So in terms of like fun and happiness, and in the past we've been, I think, successful in actually getting rid of those clients and then trying to move on to other clients. It's always risky, but I think just being in the agency business is risky. It's changing all the time, but it means old things will go away, but there's always new opportunities that you can use to try and experiment with what you actually do and try to get clients that actually support your vision. So we're working very hard on that, but it's not always possible for sure.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, Thomas. Thank you, Thomas. You are free to go, and